Hello, I'm John, the sewing machine doctor. Um, I've been repairing mechanical sewing machines since 81 area. Got my training in Florida. Um, Up to now, I've put a couple of videos on YouTube, but really the biggest reason, the only reason, was to sell that particular machine, to help me sell that machine. And then I would put a link to eBay and Craigslist on the YouTube video so that it would take you there and I could sell it. That would kind of demonstrate the model. I've since then haven't really put out too many videos. I have a full-time job working for Fox Power Sports. I don't need to do as many sewing machines as I used to. So I've cut down completely on the YouTube videos. I still sell some machines once in a while. In my spare time, it's a nice hobby once I'm older now. So I wanted to put a video on, I've been thinking about this for a while, on YouTube about, I went back and looked and seen that there's a lot of hits, mostly on these older singers, I have an older simple stitch singer that I posted just a kind of demonstration video on it, and it's gotten more hits than anything. I was pretty amazed at how many people have viewed this video. So I thought, well, this has got to be a pretty popular machine, so I've got a similar machine. This is a Singer Fashion Mate model 237. It just goes forward and back, and then it has a zigzag position. It has the left and right needle position. And I wanted to give back to the community a little bit about putting a machine on and show you how to clean, oil, and adjust it. So it's kind of a do-it-yourself video. And I figured there's probably a lot of people that can't possibly, put back in service every single mechanical machine out there. So this is my way of helping you to maybe bought a machine in a garage sale or at Goodwill or something, and it doesn't sew. So you can't necessarily send it to me to have me fix it and send it back. Not really economical, probably. Practical for you. So I'll show you. COA. It stands for Clean, Oil, and Adjust, and that's generally when you take your machine in to have a service. That's usually what you're bringing it in for. I'm going to show you, and I'm just taking the screws out at the top of the machine, on how to clean, oil, and adjust your machine. One like this, they're all, some of them are similar. This one's pretty simple. It's easy to work on. Usually what I do is clean the machine first. You want to clean it, clean all the dust out of it and all the lint out of it, all the thread, all the spare, windings of thread around the moving pieces. Do that first. Clean it before you oil it, because if you try to do the oiling too soon, then you end up having a lot of places that are going to be hard to clean later, and that dust will adhere to that oil, so you don't want to do that. Clean it first and then oil it and then adjust it. So 3 screws to get that out, and I left the screws at the top so I could put it back together a little quicker. This is my favorite kind of screwdriver for working on sewing machines. It's I can't remember how long ago I bought this set. It's a set of full set of screwdrivers. These are wooden handle screwdrivers, about the least expensive you can get, but surprisingly the metal that they make these with is very strong. I don't think I've ever twisted the tip on one of these screwdrivers. It was either $6.95, $7.95, $14.95 for a pack of them. They come in a pack. These are wooden screwdrivers, wooden handle screwdrivers. Find them almost anywhere. Real inexpensive. Actually pretty high quality. This is my favorite because then once you get them loose, you can just kind of spin it with either hand or both hands to get the screw out quicker. What's nice is if your hands are sweaty or oily a little bit, you're still going to be able to grip this wooden handle because it kind of soaks it in and still gives you a good grip. Last thing you want to do is try and tap on it to get out a stubborn screw. this first time you try to do that, this wooden handle will break. So don't do it. Use a different screwdriver for that if you have to tap on something, if you absolutely have to tap on something to get the screw loose in order to break it loose so you can get it out. Usually what I do after I vacuum it, a crevice tool on the end of a vacuum cleaner actually is going to be your friend. You're going to use that a lot. So you probably suck anything out of here. In some of these machines I work on and haven't been touched in 30 years, there'll be spider webs and dead spiders, sometimes live spiders, inside of them still. One machine, I had a whole family of elder bugs living in there, box elders. Most of them were dead, but there was still one that was still alive, and he was pretty cold. He could barely move. So you'd want to vacuum out the top of this, wherever you can get at, even the back of the motor, or along this end where the needle bar and the lifting mechanism for the presser foot is. And down in here, you generally pop this off, clean all that out. There won't be. Some of these machines, there's a lot of dust in them. It shows me, I feel good about it because it shows me that they've been used a lot. So this machine, once I get it dialed in, is going to work really well for someone. And then I'll show you how to. So clean it first, very thoroughly. Most of what you're going to find is the lint is going to be underneath this throw plate right here, or needle next to the side plate. And there's generally just 2 screws that you have to take out to get the throw plate out. So I'll spin those out real quick. These 2 screws are generally tapered. Now this is where you're going to find most of your built up lint and grit. This, and then in the bottom end, and then this side of the. This will lift right out. You know, generally with 2 screws to hold it in. There's always going to be a lot of lint. The most lint in this machine I'll clean off will be between this and the feed dogs right here. So generally what you want to do is pull this apart. I usually take the needle, whatever needle's in my machine, and just go through each one of these runners in both directions, and that seems to be the easiest way to pick it loose so that you can vacuum it up with the machine. I'll go ahead and put this back on so I can demonstrate the adjustment. This one's pretty simple machine. There's only just a few controls on it at all. It has the left and right needle position, and then stitch width for the zigzag setting. These screws, I'll show you real quick. My screwdrivers are generally magnetized, so yeah, kind of play. To start your screws, most of the time if you back it out until you hear a click, and then immediately turn it in, you won't ever strip out a screw or cross thread any screw. It's really the best way to do it. You back it out until you hear the click, really low, almost inaudible click, and then start turning it in the clockwise direction to tighten it down right away. There it goes. Generally, too, this long shaft screwdriver you can get in real close, and a lot of times on these needle bars, throat plates, you have to get as least angle on them as you can in order to get your screwdriver around the slot. So they're snug. Go back and snug this other side. Always want to start both screws in, dial them in as far as you can go, and then tighten them both down. Don't tighten one down first and then try to get the other one started. It'll never happen. Well, if it does, you're lucky. But no, this machine has a bobbin winder up here, and it just moves against the back of this wheel, and that's what turns this bobbin when you go to wind the bobbins. So I'm going to put this back together. Another thing too, I was talking about the inaudible click. You might be able to hear it. Right there. And then I'm not going to turn them in all the way until I get them all started. Backwards click. Alright, that one's part way in. And there, that was real loud. Heard that one. Alright, so tighten them up. Go ahead. So this is the last screw. I'm going to go ahead and tighten them all. They don't have to be super tight. This is plastic. Most of the machine is metal. Back then they used a lot more metal. Here's, I'm just going to put this last one on. Sometimes this is the hardest one to get started. There. Click. Put it in. I guess it's in the right spot. Doesn't look right here. Hang on. Loosen this out of the way a second. There. Alright. Alright, there's 2 holes in the bottom. Okay, 2 threaded holes, that's different. So I must hit it in the lower threaded hole. Can't imagine what that would be used for. But there must be a different end plate that I could have used for this machine. Maybe it's part of the design where it needs a different one for a different model slightly. Singer is the biggest maker of sewing machines in the world, I believe, still. There's machines out there older than I am, believe it or not. And I worked on a lot of them. Sometimes it's kind of cool to work on a machine that's older than I am. Back when, you know, they just cared about quality and building the best machine they could, and there weren't much discussion or talk about building something cheaper. So, and Singer seems to go around the world in the years that they've been in business. This one's made in Italy. I have some that are made in England, probably any other state or country other than the USA, really. So that slides shut, and what you're going to do now is clean it, oil it. A lot of times too, I'll use this XPS when I first open it up. I'm not going to do it again now, but because I've already done it. You want a piece of cardboard or a newspaper, like you know, Black Friday sale items or something, newspaper underneath this to soak up all the oil that's going to drip out of the machine at first, because you're putting a lot of oil in it at first. Generally, I put oil in it. I oil it all up. Any little crevice, any little oil hole, any surfaces that are mated that you know are going to wear against each other. So I'll spray a lot of it down through the top here and along the side here, and then flip it up and hit all this mechanism underneath. You can see where it's still kind of dripping out. And then this coats it. It soaks in. I'll spin it over a couple times by hand and let it sit for 2 or 3 days, so it'll kind of soak in to the machine, and then you won't be afraid to run it, because if you try to run this thing full blast with no oil in those bushings, it's going to seize the machine up. You'll have to throw it out. It won't be any good anymore after that. So up in here, any place that you think's got movement, common sense, try and keep as much oil out of this motor, any motor, that you can, because it just generally doesn't need that much. A couple of drops in the front bearing might be okay, but oil has a tendency to build up in these motors. Pretty soon it'll be shorting out between the brushes and the armature. You don't want that. Makes a mess. You have to clean it out. Maybe replace the motor. That's not real cheap. So crevice tool to clean it. oil it with this, and then I've got an oiler here that you can buy at sewing parts online, any sewing machine. You usually have to go to mail order to get something like this, but put my oil in here. I buy it a gallon at a time, and then I just squeeze this, stick it in the oil, let it draw up, and then this comes out. This pushes closed so it's being more compact, then it opens up so that you can actually get down in those little crevices and that you normally wouldn't be able to do with the oil. Just a couple of drops really doesn't need a whole lot anywhere. And I've already done all the insides here and underneath, so try not to forget any area. It's good to overdo the oil a little bit, since it's probably some of these machines haven't been oiled in 30 years, 20 years. Actually now it'd probably be ready to sew for another 10 before you even have to clean, oil, and adjust it. Unless you use it heavily, almost like a business, you'd want to maybe have it serviced about every 6 months. So I'll grab this thread, and now the adjusting part of it, and I'm making this video just because I want to give something back to the community. There's probably a lot of people that bought a machine, like I said, at Goodwill, or they had something given to them, and they found it in a house they bought. You know, maybe bought one at Goodwill or a garage sale. Drop this through here. Now this top tension is actually just for winding the bobbin, so you'll not use that for regular sewing. It'll go through the bottom. Totally bypass this. You'll use this just for bobbin winding. And flip the light on here. This you usually have to have the foot up. Press your foot. See how that releases tension on those top discs. That's your top tension. Very important. This will now I'm just going to hold my thumb on here to give it a little resistance, so that I can kind of pull up on this and let it drop into place. So the thread is now going through the top tension spring and through the plates and through the little guide that's designed for the thread to go through. And then anytime you have a guide on this machine, you want to use it for the thread, to keep the thread from moving too fast, bunching up, slipping out of the needle. And I'm just going to give this a little tighten. Usually tighten my hand mostly, but that way I know it won't be coming loose while I'm using it. And usually, it doesn't sound important, but I always cut my thread on an angle so I can get it threaded easier. This particular machine is got the flat side of the needle to the right for the correct direction of the thread. You can usually tell which side needs that flat side facing on the top needle by looking at the race, on how that race comes around and picks that thread off of the needle. Alright, so in this case it's kind of shaped like a C. It's got an arrow on the throat plate, shows you the direction of the thread. So the flat side and the indented side of the needle, the exit point for the thread is always on the same side. In this case it's on the right. So I've got the bobbin in the bottom already, but I'm going to take it out just to show you something about the bottom tension. Okay, pretty important. The bottom tension has to match the top tension, and that's the whole key. When you have two pieces of material, or one, or whatever, how many, the thread on the top the tension has to match the tension on the bottom of the thread. And generally what you're going to end up, most machines when they're dialed in right are on 3 or 4 on the top. Now the bottom has to match this. So what you're going to do, and this doesn't sound important, but I think it is, there's in your bobbin case, this has a direction of the slot. The slot goes kind of from this corner up to this corner, and when you lay your thread in there, it's got to back itself into that slot. Okay, so in this case it's going to be clockwise direction coming off the top. That way it'll kind of back itself into this slot